Hey guys, this is Chris again, coming at you with another video. Today's video we are talking about case size, the diameter, and the lug size on a watch, how it matters, does it really matter? I know when I first got into collecting, quick just watch check by the way, I'm wearing that Timex Q, just got off work for the night. In the intro video, pretty funny little intro video you saw to this video, you saw me wearing my Omega, I made that the other day. But when I first got into wristwatch collecting, of course I have a 7.5-inch wrist. This is all going to be subjective based on what you're comfortable wearing and what you feel like wearing to your size. Now I'm lucky enough I have a versatile wrist. A lot of us may have a versatile wrist, but there are those of us that have the slender wrist, which feel more comfortable wearing 38mm, 36mm, as I'll show you here in a little bit. And then some of us may have a bigger wrist than mine, and they may end up feeling comfortable wearing a 43 or above millimeter size. I know my sweet spot is like 40mm with 20mm lugs. You gotta test out all the different kind of watches that you can. Get your buddies' watches in if you can, borrow them. If you can try them on in the store, try them on in the store, just to where you can see what you're really comfortable with wearing. But I'm just going to show you that you can wear a variety of pieces. That case diameter doesn't really matter. It's just what you really get used to wearing. Especially like the smaller sizes. Like I never really used to, like I said, when I first started getting into watches, like the 42, 43mm I thought was like my size because of my wrist size. So I thought that might have been bigger. But I also know some guys that are bigger than me wearing smaller watches like 36mm, even 34, because a lot of the vintage, if you know, a lot of the vintage sizes are like 34mm, 32mm. The guys back in the day wore smaller, you know, they had smaller wrists. They wore, some of them were bigger guys too, like you see Holyfield and all of them. They wore, or not Holyfield, Muhammad Ali had didn't think about it, but Ali, people like him, he wore a Cartier tank. He's a big dude, and that was a small watch. So, I mean, that just goes to show you that you can kind of pull off with whatever you're comfortable with. As long as you're comfortable with it, I don't really see a problem with case size. And like I said, I'm going to show you the different sizes, compare them side by side, and just to show you, like I said, you don't really have to go by a certain standard. It's really what you're comfortable wearing, and you will get comfortable the more you wear the smaller sizes and the more you wear the little bit larger. Now, if you go like 53mm, like some of the huge, you know, Invictas and stuff like that built, and then those tend to be a little gaudy. Like my sweet spot as far as like big, I feel like is like 44 to 45mm is about the biggest I'll go, depending on the watch. Like maybe a Marine Master. Of course, you know I had the Zen U1, which was 44mm. I'll put a picture of the U1 up here in the comments. But and then I also had my Orient Triton, which is now the Neptune, I think they call them. It was about 44mm, and it wore pretty good. And a lot of your Seikos actually wear smaller than the spec state. That's another thing you got to figure out. Like the different brands wear it differently. Like a lot of Seikos, you might have a 45mm Seiko, but it wears closer to 43mm. Or like the SKX is about 43mm, and it wears closer to a 41mm or 42mm. So it's all varying just on size, the proportions of the watch, the design on the watch, the aesthetics. Everything just varies on that, and this is, I just want to show you a little bit of variety here today, just to show you what all, and of course you saw all the watches in the intro video, but I just wanted to show you a little variety of everything, just to show you that you can indeed wear all kind of different watches. And like I said, I'm lucky I have a pretty versatile wrist, but 7.5-inch wrist is pretty decent sized wrist. We'll go to the desktop, I'll show you the different ones. Here's the lineup as you see. Now this Timex Q, for instance, is a 38mm, and it tapers down to 18mm lugs. So wears not too bad. It actually wears closer to a 40mm almost. This bezel kind of protrudes a little bit, give it a little bit bigger of a feel. Sometimes a bezel will give it a bigger feel, and then sometimes like a no bezel, like this 38mm Bold Adventure here with 20mm lugs. With no bezel will wear a little bit bigger just because of no bezel, so that gives that illusion of a little bit bigger size. And I will show you that next to this Smith Everest here. The Smith Everest is 36mm, which is true to the original. This is an homage to the Explorer. The original size Explorer has 20mm lugs. Of course, you see the 3, 6, and 9. And this also has no bezel, so it wears a little bit bigger. And then when stayed, I'll show you what it looks like on my 7/2 wrist. And just to show you the size difference between the 36 and the 38, the 36 is almost as big as the 38, just the way the lugs are, because this has bigger lugs. And then, like I said, the no bezel makes it wear a little bit bigger. And here is what it looks. This one looks like on my 7/2 wrist. I feel like it fits almost perfect. A little small, but you get used to it. Wears really, really light. Then, of course, you go on to a little bit bigger size. These two 38s next to each other. You see these are both 38 millimeters. But again, the no bezel looks a little bit bigger than the aesthetics on the actual case. Make it protrude out a little bit more here, as you can see with the boulder. And the dowel does have a lot to do with making it look a little bit bigger. Like I said, these are both about the same size, but this has smaller lugs, so you can see why the difference in lugs, what they make. Like if a smaller lug wears a little bit smaller, this may wear a little bit bigger, just because your lug size. Like 2 millimeter lug difference actually does make a pretty big difference on a watch. Then you have the Zen 104 on the left, and then the Omega. And these are both about the same size. They're both about 41 millimeters with 20 millimeter lugs. But as you can see, the Omega looks a little bit bigger just because of the helium escape valve and the bezel, the bevel bezel, the ceramic bezel. It makes it look a little bit bigger, but it really doesn't wear. They wear almost a little bit different, even though they're the same size. Just because, like I said, just the design of the watch. You can see like the side by side of the 104 and the Omega. Just a different, even though these are both 41 millimeters with 20 millimeter lugs, they both wear a little bit different. And I'll show you. Let me take off my Smiths. And here's a big, huge difference between the 36 millimeter and the 41 millimeter size. As you can tell, this is a huge difference, but I can still pull off both, as you'll see. And that 41, I feel like I said, the 40 millimeter with the 20 millimeter lugs is probably my sweet spot. As far as my sweet spot goes, everybody's sweet spot might be different. Yours might be 42 millimeter or 20 millimeter lugs. And then I'll show you what the Zen looks like. Of course, you guys have seen plenty of times before. And the Zen, again, is another 41 millimeter, 20 millimeter lugs, but it wears almost a little bit lighter. Just the utilitarian design on the Zen in the shape without that helium escape valve wears a little bit lighter. And here you have an SKX about 43 millimeters almost, a little over 42, and then you have the Squally 1521 at 42 millimeters with 20 millimeter lugs. As you can see, the 22 millimeter lugs does make a big difference over the 20 millimeter lugs. Now this Squally here wears a little bit better because of the cushion style case. It's almost like it's not even on the wrist. Now the SKX, you can definitely tell is on the wrist, but just a side by side comparison, these are almost the same size. And then you have this Orient. Of course, you have the Orient Canvas suit, which is almost about the same size as the SKX. And this has 22 millimeter lugs, but it does actually wear a little bit different because of where the crown is here at the 3 o'clock. I feel like it wears a little bit different. But either way, I'll show you what that SKX looks like on my wrist. And then the Squally, what both look like on the wrist. Like I said, even though these are about a millimeter apart difference, the lugs will make a big difference. Here's what the SKX looks like on my wrist, 7.5 inch wrist. And then I will try on the Squally next to SKX just to show you what it looks like. Of course, I feel like the Squally fits a little bit better, but the SKX isn't bad. But those 20mm lugs, I feel like that 20mm lugs, I feel like is a sweet spot on a lot of watches. If this was 42mm and 22mm lugs, it would look closer to the Seiko, as you can tell. And that cushion style case makes it wear a whole lot more comfortable, I feel like. Though I do love wearing the SKX. But either way, we will go back to the other view and do a conclusion. Now again, like I said, this is just all, it's all subjective on the case size, on whatever you're comfortable with wearing. If you've been in the hobby a while like me, you get comfortable wearing a lot of different sizes. And I can't stress that enough. You just gotta try on all kind of different pieces, see what size you're really comfortable with wearing. That's the best advice I can give you. But if you're comfortable wearing any size, it opens you up to a wide variety of watches. Don't just think just because there's a 36mm out there like the Explorer or the Smiths that it's an homage to the Explorer. Don't think just because it's 36mm it's going to be too small for you. You gotta go try it on to see if you like it. And if you do like it, that's all that matters. Don't worry about that. And then as you've seen in my previous videos, I've had everything all the way up to 44mm, almost 45mm on the Breitling 44mm Super Oceanarians. I had the SOH2, and then I had the Orient Triton, which is now the Neptune. I'll probably still always call it the Triton, but that's about a 44mm piece, and they wear really, really well. Any Orient and Seiko usually wears, especially like the Seiko, wears a little smaller than the spec state. Like, if you guys are worried about the turtle, one of my very first serious pieces I have was Patty Turtle, and I do miss that one. That one's a cool watch, and that one's a little bit bigger size, but it really wears smaller than the spec states. Like, especially the Sumo. I've never had experience with Sumo, but I am looking at getting a Seiko Sumo at some point, probably this year. But like the specs on all of your Seiko watches, especially wear a little bit smaller than they really are. The Squallies wear a little smaller than they are. Don't let that 42mm size start you off, because a lot of times a bigger watch will wear smaller than you think it does. You know, some of them won't even be like they're even on your wrist. Now, I have no experience with the Marine Master, but I hope to get some experience at some point. I've heard the Marine Master for its size is really chunky, but it wears really, really well. So we'll have to see on that. Like I said, most people's sweet spot I feel like is 38 to 40mm, even 39. Like I go as far as saying 39 and 20mm. That's why I tried on that Rolex at Submariner, and that's almost perfect. Like 40mm with the 20mm lugs, perfect size. I'm gonna end up more than likely getting the Manta Ocean King as a Submariner, just to hold off for a Submariner to get that feel for a little while. And that, like I said, that's my perfect sweet spot. It's a 40mm with 20mm lugs. That doesn't mean that it's going to be yours might be 38mm, yours might be 36, or yours might be 43 or 44. You just got to try out different case sizes. But basically, that's just, this video was just a little fun little subjective video on showing you guys the different case sizes, and that you can actually pull off all kind of different watches if you have the patience to try on all kind of different watches, and you just have fun with it and try and experience is key. You got to experience all the ones that you can, and that way you'll know what you're comfortable with. But anyways, guys, I appreciate you guys watching. I'll catch you next time.